one of our events. This is our second day 2 event of KRAC's Pride and Service events. KRAC is celebrating Pride, but we're also doing service at the same time. So this week we started yesterday with martinis and money, and today we're going to do Talk Up Tuesday with a special guest. Before we get started, I would like to welcome you to Talk Up Tuesday, and I am Doug McLeod, the event coordinator for KRAC and the chair of the Onyx Coalition. This event is brought to you by collaboration of Onyx Coalition and HPTN. You might ask, well, what is the Onyx Coalition and what is HPTN? HPTN 096, Building Equity Through Advocacy in an HIV Prevention System, study aiming to reduce HIV rates among same-gender loving men in the southern U.S. This study wants to address social, societal institution, and behavioral barriers to HIV prevention and care. The 5 communities where the study will be implemented, or has already started, is Dallas, Texas, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, and of course, Montgomery, Alabama. Now I'd like to introduce you to the Onyx Coalition. Will some of the members stand up if you are here? Our goal as members of the Onyx Coalition is to increase HIV testing here in Montgomery, Alabama, to increase viral suppression among those living with HIV, and also to increase pre-exposure prophylactic use among those living with HIV, which we also know as PrEP. With that being said, now you know who I am and who the Onyx Coalition is. Now I will introduce one of our coalition members to introduce our special guest.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Joy, and I'm one of the coalition members, and I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker on today. I have to put my glasses on that age, y'all. Award-winning author and educator Dr. Daniel Black is a native of Kansas City, Missouri, and spent the majority of his childhood years in Blackwell, Arkansas. His affinity for academic study, history, people, and language was recognized early, resulting in a full scholarship to Clark College in Atlanta, Georgia, where he majored in English. He was awarded the Oxford Modern British Studies Scholarship, affording him the opportunity to study at the renowned Oxford University in England. Upon graduation from Clark College, magna cum laude, he was granted a full graduate fellowship to Temple University in pursuit of a PhD in African American Studies. After completing his primary academic studies in 1993, Dr. Black returned to Clark College in order to establish the tradition of top-notch scholars who publish, tenured associate professors, who publish and remain at historically Black universities and institutions. Yes. Today, as a tenured associate professor at Clark Atlanta University, he aims to provide an example to young African Americans of the importance of self-knowledge and communal commitment. In addition to his latest work, Black on Black, Our Resilience as Brilliance in America, Black has penned other equally thought-provoking books, including Becoming, Perfect Peace, They Tell Me of a Home, and Sacred Place. The impact and popularity of works have resulted in Dr. Black being honored with the Middle Atlantic Writers Association Distinguished Writers Award and nominations for Townsend Prize for Fiction, the Ernest G. Gaines Awards, and Georgia's Author of the Year. Okay, come on. Dr. Black is also the founder of Nzinga Ndugu, Rites of Passage, Rites of Passage Society, a group whose focus is instilling principles and character in the lives of young African Americans. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Dr. Daniel.
Thank you.
I write because I believed I was ugly. Then I wrote myself into beauty. I write because I hated who I was. Then God told me I was divine and shame had no place in a divine soul. In exchange, I promised God to tell the truth, that we are all gods made in the image of a perfect, marvelous creator. I promise to tell that God is not concerned with flesh and blood, but with spiritual ecstasy shared between the living and the ought to be living. So with pen and paper, I set about the duty of setting the world free. I write because we rape. I write because we hurt. I write because some pain can't be described. It can only be felt in the marrow of a story or the lyrics of a song. I write for the boy who wanted to be a man but couldn't figure out how, or the girl who dreamed of beauty but was given brilliance instead. I write that they might not give up the fight, that they might know the failure is in others' eyes, not their being. It is in others' judgmental hearts, not their sacred difference. I write that they might live, that their stories might be holy and sacred, read by others standing at the cliff, weeping, trembling, begging God to change them, when all God says is, hell no! I write to soothe wounds too deep to heal. Day and night I write because precious blood streams from those who can't find God within themselves. In every character, every plot, every description, every image, I seek only to create a world full of gods, ant gods, lesbian gods, tree gods, ocean gods, grass gods, elephant gods, but holy gods all, who share powers and kingdoms too secure for laws and limitations. I write that troubled black youth might happen past the mirror, then dance at what they see. I write to give readers permission to take your joy back, to tell the world to kiss your ass if it thinks you're going to die, to satisfy other people's outdated, antiquated beliefs. I write to shout to the world, no fucking way, when it tries to tell you that you ain't supposed to be free. This is why I write, to strengthen the strong and fortify the weak, to sing praises to those who died for those who wouldn't, to pay homage to those who declared I am black and beautiful long before other people agreed, to say thank you to men who love and honor women, to bow before women who love and honor men, to applaud the few who love and raise children they did not birth. This is why I write, and I'm going to write until the wind outsings my pen. If there is no paper, I shall use the wall. If there's no wall, I shall use my hand. If I must relinquish my hand, I shall use the very earth upon which we stand and scratch into the dust the sentiments of liberty. There are triumphant stories to tell y'all, unthinkable testimonies to hear, stories some don't want to read but everyone needs to heed, stories that celebrate transgendered angels and bisexual prophets, stories of people we threw away who could have saved us, stories of broken hearts, broken promises, broken dreams, broken ribs, broken spirits, stories of victory and achievement against the odds. This is why I write, and I have to write because America lies, y'all. America says black men don't love black men and black children are inherently inferior. America says black women are fussy, naggy, bitchy, shallow, mouthy. Don't you see the lies? It needs these lies in order to boast itself the best country on the planet. That too is a lie. Although it could be true if America ever admitted who built the damn place. But that, my friend, is entirely too much truth. And we know what America does with truth. And so until they love it, I write. For the obese and the anorexic, the joyless and the sorrowful, for the man too anguished to adorn, the woman too forgotten to men, the child untouched and unpraised. I write for their hearts, their precious tender hearts. Each word is an invitation to believe a new thing, a different thing, a more marvelous thing, a more transformative thing, something that invites them to remove their mask and exist unashamed. I write because black people still talking about good hair and boasting of minuscule strains of Indian blood in clearly African veins. I write for those who birth children, then bury them too soon. Those who love so hard, their hearts quiver. Those who want to love, but trauma disallows. Those who work miracles every day, but never get a crown. That's who I write for. I write because we're still talking about Jesus as if there's never been another. And worse, we're still praising Jesus for having done what most of us wouldn't dare do. Yes, I write because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Indeed, it has come and gone so many, many, many times. Because we keep looking for God while we're looking at God. This is why I write, that we might acquire eyes to see and ears to hear and voices with which to speak, and perhaps then, finally, we'll discover that together we are the only God there is. But until that day, I write. I write to remind us that every day without love is a day wasted. It is a sunrise dishonored, a breathless, lifeless existence that only the unintelligent can endure. I write for the insecure, the inept, the uncertain, the self-doubting, the woefully timid, the thick, the husky, the thin, the tentative, the spiritually paraplegic, the emotionally palsied. Through books, I seek to banish hatred and pursue its antidote. This is why I write. I write to hold the hand of the depressed and the dying, the lonely and the suicidal. I have to write. It is my calling. It is the price I pay for the breath I breathe. I want blackness to bloom all over this land and mend what white supremacy has broken. I want people to love the stranger and to honor the ex-con. This is why I write. We've crowned someone else our God, y'all. We've abandoned our ancestors in exchange for dollars, but no sense. We've deserted dreams because others couldn't comprehend them. We've let daddy's failures and mama's shortcomings define who and what we are. But they, mama and daddy, were only hills and mountains to climb in order to learn how to climb, because heaven is a high place. I write that we might make a heaven instead of simply praying for one. I write to encourage justice to fight on, to know that winning happens in many ways and sometimes without celebration. If justice quits, we all lose. If justice fails, we shall rally behind her and lift her high. This is why I write, because we are custodians of this planet, stewards of mercy and kindness who owe each other a bright, and uninhibited good morning. Then we'll rise like the sun and comfort like an evening breeze and satisfy like a shading tree, and we will be finally whatever God is. This is why I write. All you have to do is read. Good evening. Thank you. Oh, wow. Let me just open by saying thanks to all of you for being here. I'm really, really excited about this book. I'm excited about this moment. I'm excited about being here in the house. I've been in this business of talking and uplifting and mentoring Black life for many years now. This is my 30th year on faculty at Clark Atlanta University. Yes. So I've been there a good minute. And the truth of the matter is, if I could do it again, I'd do it all over again. I've come across the most brilliant, the most dynamic, the most creative young Black minds, young human minds conceivable between Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, Morris Brown, etc. And in many ways, I wrote this book because I wanted to remind them and you that really there is no America without its Black citizens. If you take Black people out of America, the idea of America collapses. Y'all just let me
Speak Black.
Listen. How do you know that? Because during the 1950s and 60s, when we had that thing called the Civil Rights Movement, when Black people had to beg entry into white spaces, when Black people were denied entry into colleges, restaurants, department stores, there was never a day that whiteness was denied entry into Black spaces. That's right. Whether our schools, our churches, our homes. Come on, somebody. That's right. Which means Blackness was the moral character keeper of the nation. Yes. Yes. That was true, and it has been true. And I wrote this book because I need a generation of young people to know that. Because if they don't know it, if we're not very careful, young Black people are going to believe that they are cheap. And I need them to know that you're very expensive. Yes. Why? Because we pay dearly for you. Yes. We pay dearly for the possibility that you don't have to beg entry anywhere. We pay dearly. Somebody pay. I mean, here, we're in Montgomery. Okay? Right, we're in Montgomery, where we got to be very, very clear, and we have to look young Black children in the face and say, "Sit down, sit down just a minute, sit down just a minute," because if you're not very careful, you're going to misunderstand the price of your freedom.
Yes, yes.
And I paid too dearly for you to misunderstand. We can't afford for you to misunderstand this. Because another generation is coming, and this race has not yet been concluded. That's right. You got to run too. Right? You don't get a leisurely life. Right? You don't get that. You may want it, wonderful, but you don't get that. You inherit, if you will, the legacy of running. That's who he is, and that's what we do, right? And that's what you're prepared to do too, right? It has nothing to do with desire. It has to do with what you owe, right? And so this book is black on black, on black, on black, on black, on black, on black, because I need a generation to be very clear that if you're going to claim blackness, it is not free. It is not free. You have to pay something. And so I talk, of course, many of you have read this book now, about HBCUs. I talk about the black church. I talk about what it means to be black and queer in this country. And in fact, let me pause here just a minute in order to get something clear here too. We've got to also be very careful that if we're not careful, we're going to follow the Western idea also of throwing people away.
Yes, yes.
Right? Black people really, that was never really our tradition. Right? I was telling somebody the other day, we did not inherit homosexuality from Westerners. We inherited homophobia.
Yes.
I say
yes. Yes.
In other words, difference has always been true. Difference has always been present. Right? Difference has always been present. And in some ways, what I really want us to do is to simply be clear. It's kind of like a bouquet of flowers. When you get a bouquet of flowers, right, you get arrangement of difference. Right? And in that arrangement of difference, there are all kinds of different colors. All of us probably have preferences of the one we like, but that does not mean that it is more beautiful than the others. It means you have a limitation in terms of your understanding of beauty. That's what that means. But what I also want us to get clear about, right, to my lesbian, gay brothers and sisters, my queer brothers and sisters, it's also not an achievement to be queer.
Right.
That's not an achievement.
Speak, Glenn.
Yes.
You don't get an award for that.
Come on.
Right.
It's just who you is.
That's it.
Get in the battle and let's go.
Let's go.
That's it.
Right? Because when they were throwing people overboard in the middle passage, some of you went to.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. Yes.
It's not a special category. It's a descriptor. Right? But what we got to understand is there's a particular lens that people bring, right, who come under this particular fashion. That's extremely important to understand. And we needed James Baldwin.
Come on now.
Yes. Yes.
We absolutely needed Audre Lorde.
Yes. Yes.
We needed Byron Rustin.
Yes.
We needed Marsha P. Johnson. Right? Not just, no. You can't get that level of brilliance out of Baldwin unless you are queer.
Yes.
Come on now.
It is a requirement. You must have. Why? Because anybody who's pushed that far to the edge learns a more excellent dance. Why? Because when you're on the edge, how close can you get to the edge before you fall over? Right? And what it really means is a person that is far more conscious of their existence because you have very little room to play with. Black people are already on the edge.
That's right. Say that.
We live on the edge.
Yes.
Then black queer people are on the edge of the edge.
Yes.
Right. However, you won't get into heaven because you gay.
Right.
I'm going to say it one more time. That's not going to impress God. Why? Because God gave it to you in the beginning. You can't give God back what God gave to you.
Yes.
You got to transform what God gave to you. You got to transmute what God gave to you.
Yes.
Change lives with it and then present that back.
Yes.
Right? And this is very, very important because what I want us to do as a community, right, is to understand that we've got to have every soldier we can get.
Yes, sir.
We've got to have every soldier we can get in this battle. From the north, south, east, and west. We need some tall ones. We need some short ones. We need some thick ones. We need some thin ones. The list goes. We need every level of difference conceivable. Because whatever God made is what it's going to take to fight this battle.
Yes.
Right? And the last thing I want to say about this is we've got to really understand that the real kingdom is not glorifying in the difference. The real kingdom is the maturity to stand next to the difference, to see God in it without it having to look like you. If the only thing God can look like is you, you don't know God. I believe that. I believe that.
Yes.
I genuinely believe that. This is what made people go around the world proselytizing religions, trying to make other people agree to serve God the way they serve God, because they were so limited that this is the only way we can see God. In other words, they destroyed people's lives, destroyed cultures. You've read about it, trying to make somebody else agree with them. Well, let's not make the same error from within. We can do better than that. We can absolutely do better than that. My grandmother used to say, if you can't say nothing good, don't say nothing. Absolutely. Which means sometimes your silence is a requirement for your maturity. And so I wrote this book, right? I wrote this book in order for us to be very clear that we've got to decide as a people whether we're going to live or die.
That's it.
We have to decide as a people what we're going to look like in the future. Right? Folks are talking about this argument in Florida. Oh my God, they won't teach any black history in the schools. When did they ever?
Come on, Black! Speak to that.
That's not deep.
Exactly.
That's not deep. They just telling you they're not gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah.
They never been doing it. Right? So like what's the trauma? And what is wrong with black people to send our children to some other place, hoping that other place will teach them our own? Come on now. Come on now. If public schools don't teach one piece of black history, that don't move me. Right. That don't move me. I'm going to do it.
That's right.
I'm going to do it. I'll gather the children myself, which I do.
Yes.
Right? Anybody who knows me knows I do this.
Yes.
Right? Because that's who we are. That's who we are. And that is our job. That is our job. And our self-love has to be clear. Black children have to be clear that we love ourselves, not just that we tolerate what it means to be black. Right? It's a difference. And how do we know? One of the things that we have not done enough of, for me, is to touch black children. Right? And I don't mean when they're 2 and 3. I mean when they're 12, when they're 14, when they're 16. Right? Our touch of black children is really the transference of our ashe unto a life that looks like ours. So many black children, their real issue is they're walking around in the universe and no black hand has sanctioned their being. It has never anointed, right, who they are. How do I know this? All I got to do is school start. When school starts in the AU Center, right, I just got, it's 1,000 freshmen everywhere. Before the sun goes down, my office is full. How's that possible? Because all I do is say, hey, young man, King, where are you from? I'm from Orlando, Florida. Okay. Young man, are you clear why the ancestor sent you? No. I'm not really even clear why you're touching my head. Here's what's deep. He did not say move it.
Right.
It's fine. You keep touching it. By the time 8 o'clock comes, right, we're in for life. We fear our own touch. We fear our own touch. Because part of the problem is most of our touch comes in reprimand.
Yes.
It's in reprimand and it's in punishment. So when the touch comes in reprimand and in punishment, any touch really is dismantling self-worth.
Yes.
Let me stop. I know there's some questions. Who's asking me these questions? Help me out here, because listen. Because I'm passionate about this. Because we're living in a world and a time, where these insane people are running for office, and we're wondering what in the world is going to become of the world. But y'all, that right there is a sign that we are off track. Because historically, black people never waited to see what the government was going to do in order to know what we're going to do.
That's right.
Right? And quite frankly, we're a people historically who move not by what we see, but the unseen. It is the unseen. It is the invisible, right? That is our safety, right? It is that which we do not see, right? That undergirds and that moves us. And we come from a people historically who say, hey, listen, I don't care what the world says. I don't care what the world is doing. I don't care what the world is being, right? If we stand with the unseen power, we will win.
Right, right.
We're going to win. I don't care what the odds are. Listen, black life is against the odds already.
That's right.
It's already, the fact that half of us in here went to schools, that was already against the odds.
That's right.
Right? We've been against the odds for 400 years.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
So let's get over being against the odds. Right?
Yes.
And let's get clear at this point now. We're going to construct not only a world, but we're going to construct what we want. And I'm going to really tell you this too. And I don't mean just black people. Actually, black people will save this whole planet if we get ourselves together
Yes,
from
sir.
understanding
Yes,
who we
sir.
are.
Yes,
The
sir.
whole planet, everybody on it.
Yes.
Everybody on it. Because that was really the legacy. Right? We raised every child in this country. We did.
Everyone.
We cooked meals in practically every house in Montgomery, Alabama.
That's right.
Most of these buildings down here, some black hand, some black sweat is in that mortar. So let's do it again. Let's not be mad that we have to do it again. Let's get clear that that's what we were sent to do.
Yes. Yes.
You know, when you disturb an ant hill, right? All of us have done this. The ants start scrambling. Y'all seen it, right? They scramble, right? Right? But they don't look up. Because they're not concerned with who disturbed it. They're looking around to see, are the workers in place? Are you in place? Are you in place? Why? Because we're going to rebuild. And if you give about 30 minutes and come back, you can disturb it again. And they'll come back about 30 minutes. In other words, you'll get tired destroying it before they get tired rebuilding it. Why? Because rebuilding is what they do. That's who they are. Just because you're bigger does not mean you're greater.
Come on.
Right? So that's why I wrote this book. So let me close my mouth. Who I'm going to sit up here? Okay. I don't have, okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll probably do it again.
Well, anyway, that was good. Did y'all like that? I will, before we get into questions, I would like, as a Onyx co-chair, I would like to, as a black gay man, I would like to just make a comment and also something that when I first began to read the book, I was talking to Joy. No, I did not finish it because we're having a book club and we're going to be talking about it throughout.
Yes, sir.
But when I first started reading, I stopped to write down some things that I remember as growing up. And I'm just going to read this little small paragraph. In exchange for masculinity, I stopped reading books. I stopped analyzing movies. I stopped dancing before full-length mirrors. I stopped playing with the choir. I stopped scratching from my scalp. I stopped crying at others' abuse. I stopped caring about women's issues. Stopped cooking, especially baking, and stopped going to church. I guess I stopped acting like a faggot. And when I read that, I saw that all the time.
Yes, sir.
And I thought that if you were doing negative stuff, if you were acting out, if you were portraying yourself, or you were not, if you were dressing wrongly or loosely, or you were sagging your clothes, if you was doing something almost criminal, then you got praise even from your parents.
Yes.
And even now I see it where young moms and dads will say, even a young guy in the neighborhood, he's 15 years old, and he got a girl pregnant. First thing they say, well, this is not gay. But they didn't worry about that they were 15 and pregnant. They even had a baby shower.
Yes.
And a reveal. We ain't going there. But the whole point was, I started to see that, and I still see it. And that was powerful for me.
Yes,
because when you start reading the book, you start seeing some things that remind you of the things that you experienced. And I see that all the time. Even playing football, you had to play football. I'm number 7.
Yes.
But I'm number 5 with 5 boys.
Yes.
And it's 2 girls. And everybody played the sport but me. But guess what I was? And then it took me a long time to realize that just because she was 6'1", you didn't have to play basketball.
Right.
But
Right.
I became the leader of the community, and at 19, I was a neighborhood president and had grown folks listening to me.
Right.
So it was kind of weird, like, okay, so I don't have to worry about trying to fit in and be what they want me to be. So that was, I just want to say that.
Absolutely. And I want to comment on that too. Part of the problem, brother, and brother, you were beautiful then and you are beautiful now.
Thank you.
You absolutely are. Absolutely are. And I want us to get clear that not only can we say that to one another, I want you to be able to hear that and to hear it in front of the world. Right? I don't want to whisper that to you. Right? That's a declaration. Right? The first problem is that in many instances, we're praying to the wrong God. Right? Because it seems like the God we've been taught loves and prefers patriarchy.
Right.
Right? And in loving and preferring patriarchy, there are ways that we are reifying our own bondage, right? While we're thinking we're getting saved and getting set free, right? And I think this is extremely important to understand, because I think this is part of the reason, and too much of the reason, that the church has loved, and black folks have adopted this, have loved this notion of Jesus on the cross. Right? Because Jesus on the cross makes people scream, holler, fall out, speak in tongues. But part of the issue is because it's the place where Jesus' violence, where Jesus' masculinity is clearest. Right? Jesus is at least ambiguous in other places. Right? But when Jesus gets to the cross, there's so much masculine violence circumscribed upon that moment and upon Jesus' body that Jesus becomes man on the cross.
That's what they say.
Right? And that's why we sing about it. Right? They whipped him all night long. And the fact that he took it, right, and could take it, right, and could drag this cross, right, all the way up Golgotha Hill, right. I was a church musician, so right. Means by the time Jesus actually gets to the cross, we got a man now, right. But here's how you, God help me, oh God. Here's how you know. Raising Lazarus from the dead, you needed something else?
Right.
We needed something else to be saved.
Right.
Somebody who could literally tread the line between life and death. We needed Jesus to be killed. Water and wine didn't do it.
Right.
Walking on water didn't do it.
Right.
Because because those acts are not circumscribed in masculine violence. But getting Jesus to the cross is. Which is why then we start screaming about his blood. But if the blood really saved us, right? Then that turn saved us.
Well, come on now.
You couldn't give more blood than that turn. They literally dismembered the man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You see, so wasn't the okay, all right. It's not the blood. It's not the blood. It's the masculinity. It's the masculinity. And this is why very often we'll put even raggedy masculinity in place before we take honorable femininity.
Raggedy.
So, with that being said, we do have some questions, and I'll be like, oh, that was aha. One of the questions that we want to ask is,
Is it okay if I move, or are you following me, brother? Okay, yes, sir. Go ahead.
as long as, and this was on page 40, if you have not read the book, it's on page 40, as long as one is black, one is unprotected. Do you believe this phrase is even more true among black saints and
No, I don't. I don't. Because historically, America would kill any black man.
That's right.
Right. That is true. What I believe is two things. One of the things I believe is that black gay men have to stop taking themselves out of the pool of manhood. In other words, black gay men have to discontinue, and very often it's subconscious, but it still happens, believing that they are the example of manhood that boys should follow. Right? Most gay men won't stand up and say, boy, I pray that you're like me when you grow up. And most communities won't say it. Right? Like communities praise again, Baldwin. No person prays that their son is like him.
Right.
That then means you missed the Savior.
Wow.
Right. So what I'm really saying is black men have to claim something. And one of the things I think black men have to claim is having the insight to say, we have to be the ones who revolutionize the idea of manhood, masculinity. Because if you're not careful, subconsciously, black gay men are screaming and angry at heteronormativity. But heteronormativity don't have no power except the one you give it.
Yes, yes.
Right? So when I see this little 2-3-year-old, you go ahead and run. Go ahead and run. And when I see this little 3 or 4-year-old boy, right, I say, hey, I'm your mentor.
Right.
I'm your mentor. Right? This is what I want you to do. Come here, I'm going to read you this book, boy. Right? How's the sexuality relevant?
Right.
Because the other men who assume themselves mentors, these are men with 4 kids by 4 different women. Now, this is to disturb their clarity, right? That their masculinity was sufficient. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying, right? And I'm saying black men have to make assumptions about the divinity of queerness, right? If queerness is always objectionable, and I mean 2 gay men, right? If somebody's always apologizing for it, right, then you don't really have the right to have it because you miss the beauty of it. It's the same thing like with black people and white people, right? If all of your reference are white, you have really not discovered the power and the magic of being black, right? You don't get it. Right. If you really believe your child would get a better education from Harvard than Tuskegee, you missed it. You missed it. The only reason Du Bois gets into Harvard is because he went to Fisk.
Right.
Speak on that, Black.
Very true. Yes,
Harvard was the step down.
yes, it was.
Fisk was the Harvard institution. How do you know that? Because Du Bois got in when they wasn't even letting black people in. In other words, Du Bois wasn't smart. He was so exceptionally brilliant. But here's the catch. So was everybody else at Fisk. How do you know? He had to have professors when he was there. You see what I'm saying? But if we're not careful, we've given Harvard all the credit. Harvard gets no credit. The only credit Harvard gets is by being smart enough to take it. Right? But they didn't shape nothing. No, we built that school. You know, so I think it's very important to get very, 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 very clear, right? Not to ask somebody for manhood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
You don't ask a person's permission.
Yeah.
Right? You be it.
Come on.
Right? And it is. And somebody else disagrees, and they can disagree. Just like you can disagree with air, and here it is. You know, it doesn't matter.
Well, my next question is one that we debated a couple times in our meetings. We had a few meetings before, because we're like I said, we were in the book.
Okay.
So we've been discussing the book at length. And one question we had comes from page 165 to 169. And I kind of spearheaded this question, so I'll let it on top.
Okay.
What's wrong with the closet if it's safe?
The closet is never safe. By construction, it's not safe. Right? Because the point of a closet is to hide things. That's why you put your clothes in it. Right? Because you're actually trying to hide. We're hiding our masks away. Right? And the point of a closet is you really want to get to the point and the place, even in one's life, where you don't even need it. Right? Because most of us actually have too many things. That's why you actually need a closet. Because we actually are covering we have over-invested in the things necessary to cover our truth. Right? So each day we're trying to pick out what thing will do the work of lying for me today.
And the reason why I ask that is because I know, and I worked in HIV for almost 5 years, and I know some people where coming out was not safe.
I understand.
You see what I'm
I
saying?
do.
So sometimes
I
they
do.
did have to be in that
I
closet. And
understand.
I'm not saying those that go out and got their wives in
Right.
the closet.
Sure. Right,
I'm not
right.
quite talking about that.
I got you.
But a closet that's safe for now. Because even you said, after I met God and got a few
Sure,
degrees,
sure.
are we still going to afford that grace to the young 17 or the young 20-year-old who's just still not very sure on how to come and tell everybody?
Sure.
How can we encourage them that you can come out of that closet, and what's a safe way to do that, especially here in Alabama?
Sure. See, I think a couple of things. I agree with you. I just want to come from the other end. Meaning, I would spend less time suggesting to the 17-year-old that the closet might be extended to you for grace than I would looking at him in the face and looking at him in the face and looking at her in the face and saying, when people need to get free, do you have the capacity to hold their freedom? That's what I want, right? Because if that's true, they're going to bump into that 17-year-old, right? And then that 17-year-old gets to be free.
Yes.
Because see, freedom begets freedom.
Yes.
Right. So I would not try to invest in a child trying to find a closet safe, because the truth of the matter is people can find you in there too.
Yes.
Right. And people destroy folks in closets too.
That's right.
Right. And but what I do want to do is I do want a child to believe that they can run into my bosom and find safety.
Yes.
Right. But part of the problem is many of us are kind, but we are not fighters. Right? We're not warriors. We're nice, right? But we're not soldiers in the battle, right? Even those who are seemingly kind to the queer community, right? We're nice about it. It's like nice white people who still won't fight against racism, right? Right? Yeah. Yes.
Now, we will say this. If you all have questions, yes, ma'am. Stand up, please, so we can hear you.
So my question for you, when you talked about the failed experiment, when we were talking about it, my question is, can the failed experiment be undone? Because so much we used to beat our head, separate but equal wasn't fair and didn't work. And when you talk about the failed experiment, it shows how we asked for something.
Oh, as an integration.
Right. We asked for something, we got it, and now we're mad. Do you think
No.
the failed experiment can be undone?
First of all, the experiment didn't fail. White people didn't want it. Let's be very clear.
Right.
Because there's no institutional place that did not welcome whiteness and all possibilities. Not if black folks were running. None. Right? This is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Now, what I really believe that means is that once we tried this experiment, and truly it didn't happen. Right? It really didn't happen. People were forced to do it.
Yeah.
Really, our conclusion at that time was supposed to be, okay, then America, we're done. We're out. We're done. We're done. And we should have left it.
And we should. Absolutely.
That's really what should have happened.
Absolutely.
Why? Because you've now told us you have no desire and you have no commitment whatsoever, right, to honor us. Because separate but equal, it should have happened. Because all separate but equal means is, I can honor my stuff, I'll let you honor yours, right? And no, we're not together, but I have enough human respect, right, not to burn down your stuff.
Right.
They didn't have it.
Right.
Which means now, what has really happened, my sister, we're out here. What's really happened is, after that, and we got too afraid to leave, we went to beg mode.
Yes.
And we've been in begging mode since.
Absolutely.
Hey, brother.
Hey, how you doing? So this is kind of on the same line. So like, when we talk about our queerness and being black, like I'm a 56-year-old openly black gay man.
Yes, sir.
With HIV, all right?
Okay.
And I look in this room and I don't see a lot of younger 20 in that age group, right?
Right.
I keep looking at them and seeing that they prioritize their queerness over their blackness.
Yes.
And I think that is a lot of influence from our colonizer friends who told them, like, you need to, once we get this gayness straight, we'll be fine. Well, we're still going to be black.
Right.
Like, when you look at the last 30 years, the gay rights movement, where it's come, as black people, we're still not full citizens of this country. And so, like, what would you say to, like, the younger black kids who are not here? Like, we just had Central Alabama Pride in Birmingham. My friend Chris and I, we started Birmingham Black Pride about 6 years ago. And they go to all of that stuff. Nothing want you there. They go to all that stuff. They create nothing for you. But then that's where you go. When we have stuff, you can barely get them to come out.
I can answer this for you.
It's a crazy level of self-hate.
It's a very, very fragile answer, but I'm gonna give it to you. Right? Part of the problem is what young people have discovered is they get more embracing in queer circles than in black circles. In other words, right, if we could get the black church, right, to open its arms completely, because what millennials are not going to do, you know what millennials are not going to do? Which we did. Millennials are not going to give you their money, but you won't marry them.
Right.
They're not going to do that. We did it. Right? They're not going to do that, nor should they.
That's
Nor should they. In other words, the black womb, black young people in the last 20 years, in terms of issues of gender and sexuality, have found the black womb far more ambiguous, right, than many white spaces in terms of this issue. Right? We'll do the thing of like, yes, I love you, but I don't love that in you. And black kids are like, what the hell is what?
Right.
What does that? What does that mean? You know, what does that mean? And so what I'm saying is the ability to embrace, right, black queer children, right, and not just as seemingly this is a present to them, right? No, you actually have come from the spirit realm to bring us something. What is that? Why are you here in this fashion? Why are you here in this body? Teach us. Right? In other words, I wouldn't say anything to the children. I would get their parents and the grandparents together and say, we've been kind, but we've not been loving. Right? We've tried to figure out how to tell children very nicely and sweetly that they go into hell.
Come on.
And they saw through the bullshit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Black.
Oh, my sister.
I adore you.
I love you.
I'm so grateful that you are my mentor. Me and my mother are here. My community is here. Thank you so much.
Glad
So we have a well of just phenomenal, amazing people here.
Absolutely.
My friends Erica and Sid. I mean, so many, brother, I'm not sure your name. So many folks that gather, black queer folks
Yes.
as well. And like the young folks are coming out, right, as black queer folks, as I am as well. But I wanted you to speak a little bit to the creators. It's a lot of creators in the room. In the book, Dr. Black speaks beautifully about how capitalism and being a black capitalist will not save us.
That's right.
Right? Can you speak a little bit about like black artists, the journeys we decide to take versus maybe the money that might come to us?
Sure.
And how we kind of like level set that for ourselves. How do we as black creators find value in the spaces that we're in? And how do we keep coming back to black space? Right? Even when black space might not have all of the millions of dollars to give us, how can we continue to find the resources and the beauty and the joy that comes from that space?
Sure.
And not just kind of be taken
Absolutely.
by white space.
Absolutely. And I do talk about that in this book. And one of the things I'd say is creativity, artistic work, always comes through the strange. It's never regular people who create nothing. It's always irregular. Right? Miles Davis was crazy. Right? Coltrane was crazy. Right? Aretha Franklin was crazy. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Toni Morrison was crazy. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's never the regular. Right? This is very important. Right? Why? Because to traverse that space between the possible and the impossible to create what's called art. Right? Because art, part of my problem even contemporarily with art, too many young people for me are doing what they call art because they're trying to pimp a commodity.
Come on now.
Right? But you're showing me what I already know. You're showing me what I see. You're not doing art, you're doing mimesis, you're doing reflect, you're showing me what I already know. Right? Art is, can you dream a possibility? Right? Can you conceive of an idea, right, that is beyond the conceptual possibilities of every single one of us, that answers the question, right, of what we've been missing? The point of art is to tell us what we've been missing. Right. The point of art is not for you to for a person to just make money. But the brilliance is absolutely in these young artists. The brilliance is obvious to me. It's absolutely obvious to me. Even in hip hop, the brilliance in hip hop, I got it. But the problem is, in any community, the absence of the elder's role in terms of apprenticing this young creative means this young creative will end up pimping their own art. Yes. Right? For the possibility of what they can get from it instead of offering it to the community for the possibility of the community's transformation. And if an artist will transform, right, the cash will come back to you.
Yes.
Right? But it won't always be lots of cash. But it doesn't need to be. And what's really deep, really, is why do we keep looking for cash and call ourselves praising a broke Savior? Why are we screaming money, 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 money? And every time you close your eyes and pray, you name it Jesus, and Jesus never had $5. Right? So what I'm really saying here is, we have to really, and I'm an artist myself, certainly I write as course as y'all see. I don't know how much money a book is going to, I don't have the slightest idea. Right? But that's not my concern. My concern is I want to write something that's going to transform and it's going to change the world. And the thing that I've discovered, my great sister, the thing that I've discovered is if you offer people transformation, they'll pay you. They'll pay you. Right? I have discovered that. But if you titillate their senses, the day will come when the titillation will not happen. Right? And so the thing I would really, really, really offer young folks is get under you an elder. You know, you're talking about elder. Get under you an elder who can help you understand the difference. Who can help you understand the difference between what it means to have a gift and what it means for you to pimp a present. Get to an elder who can put that into context. See, any gift unshaped, any gift, right, that is outside of the hands, right, of excellent shaping is going to be a gift that destroys you. The same thing that saves you can destroy you. Right? But what's the difference? An elder's leading. An elder's sight. An elder's insight. This is why even the Savior needed 12. Right? You're the Son of God. Yeah. But they're uncles of God too. They're aunties of God. Right? So really you got to get you some eyes. You got to get you some sight that's greater than your own. Right? And what's funny is when this book was in manuscript form, I sent it to my dear sister, right, and my friend and my mother, right, and she and her partner came to my house and they said, okay, hey, listen, Black, this is the book. I was like, y'all sure? They're like, listen, I'm telling you. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Listen, crazy man, this is the book, right? Because when you do your own art form, your own emotion, your own ego is so central to it. That you gotta have somebody else's sight to help you understand what you're doing and what's the real cost of it, right? So I'm saying all of that simply to say what I would really urge young creatives to do is to get under the wing of someone who can help them harness that gift. Because the other thing is many people are passing out and very innocuously but problematically, many young people are passing off art, but it's mediocre. Yeah. But they think it's excellent. And they think it's excellent because that's the only iteration of that thing they've seen. Right? It's like if a person says, oh my God, I think I want to be a pianist. I'd say, I want you to watch this video of Thelonious.
Yes. Yes.
Right, I want you to watch this first. Because if you're not careful, you think you really played that. That's extremely important.
Yes.
That's extremely important. You got to understand the way black, it's like, if you invite somebody over for Thanksgiving, black people, we know the difference between dressing and stuffing. We know the difference. And if somebody's trying to pass that stuffing off in that dressing, we know. We might be like, oh, wow. We know. It's a metaphor, but y'all get it. Right? But not just because we like, but because we come from a tradition of people for whom only excellence would do.
Yes.
Only excellence would do. And if we can keep our children in that tradition, we'll keep creating giants. Yes, ma'am.
I want to do just a quick follow-up. So we talked to the artist, and so you're speaking of elder. So it'll be great to hear how do you define elders? We grew up in Montgomery, right? Montgomery can be very heteronormative. It can be very ordered.
That's right.
Top, middle, bottom. And so I feel like in a lot of ways we talk to young folks, but we don't talk to what is an elder. How do we speak to the elders? Because a lot of times it's hard to find your way to somebody that is open not only to just give you something, but to also receive.
That's right. That's
right. So this thought that like to be an elder, you have to be 80,000 years old.
Right.
When this little baby right here, this baby has been watching you. This baby right here. That baby has some wisdom in her. She can teach, right? So can you speak a little bit to like what do you feel like an elder is, and what word do you have to elders? So that young folks can go to them and they can be received.
I think one of the struggles in our community is that too many black adults don't want to be young. Right. Because it's going to cost.
Yes.
And it is going to cost. It is going to cost. Right? But if you don't pay it, it's going to cost more.
Yes.
Right? So, number one, that's the problem. Well, that's one big problem. Number two, I think there are requirements of eldership. I think there absolutely are requirements of eldership. And one of the things that I would tell any young person is if you're looking for an elder, I think I'd say look for three things. Number one, a person who is clear that he or she is an elder. Right? Make sure they are clear. Not just that you need one, make sure they are clear. Two, make sure their lives look like something you admire.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be something you admire. Because if you're not careful, in a minute, we're like, you ain't no elder. How are you? You ragged eared it out. And so it's got to be an adult, right, whose character bespeaks itself, right? Not perfection. I think that's extremely important. Because a young person will see an elder's flaws, and they're supposed to, because that's a human being.
Yes.
But that elder's excellence, juxtaposed to those flaws, right, ought to still excite that young person's eyes. I think that's extremely, extremely important. Number three, I think an elder is someone who can take care of himself or herself and somebody else. If the elder cannot take care of themselves, I don't think eldering is what they need to do.
With that, I wanted to switch a little bit because the coalition, we do focus on same thing with black men and also health as well.
Yes.
So with HIV and PrEP, do you think that even the entire black generation, then the gay, same gender-loving generation, and the younger generation can't seem to get that on track because they don't know about HIV? That's why the rates are so low for them taking PrEP.
I don't think that. I think this is a dangerous thing, but I do think this. I think that a lot of young people don't take PrEP because they're okay with dying. I think many young people have already negotiated with death. I think many young black queers have already negotiated with death and have decided that I'm going to give this thing hell I'm gonna get this life here. I'm gonna enjoy every piece of this. I already know it's not. I'm not gonna be here like that. So yeah, all right. But baby, I'm gonna come up out of here blazing. Right.
How can we change that? Because I know you said about you don't see gay seniors. Where are
That's
all
right.
the gay seniors?
That's right.
You definitely said that.
That's
in the
right.
book, What we have missing gay seniors.
That's
So
right.
how can we encourage young gay same-gender loving men to take prep, to care about living, to want to?
I think prep is second. I think there's something that comes before that. We first got to make space whereby heteronormatives need queer people. That's absolutely critical. In other words, queer brothers and sisters have to have a place in terms of the black community, period. Not just the black queer community.
That's right.
The black community. Right? They've got to have place, value, significance. Right? For example, if James Baldwin were in my neighborhood, right? Who are the people who are slow enough to let James Baldwin live in your neighborhood and your kids struggle in school? Happens all day, every day. Happens all day, every day. It happens all day, every day. My kid, I gotta hire a tutor or whatever. Actually, the after-school instructor, right, lives 2 houses down from you. It's that lesbian sister.
Yes.
Right? So the utility she has is that she's going to intellectually save our community. See, it's got to be value to the whole thing. Right? And we don't do this at all. We don't do it at all. And we absolutely positively have to. And then, what she would realize is, oh, damn, I got to live. Why do I have to live? Because these babies are now depending on me. Right? Without that, if I go or come, what difference will it make? See, everybody has got to be plugged into the value of existence. Right? Everybody's life has got to be central to the notion of how we stay alive as a people. Everybody's life. My brother here was saying, okay, I'm a black queer man. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. He might need to be, he's going to be the person who's going to be the community basketball coach. Right? He doesn't play basketball, but you understand my point. Right? Not everybody playing basketball and he's looking out the window. The hell is that? And no, we need to come in here. Hey, sir, you move to the community? Welcome. Sir, what do you do? Oh, wonderful. We got 6 or 7 boys here. Come on. Right. This is very important. Right? This is very important. I'll tell you a funny story. You'll get this. I was a church musician, when I grew up. I started playing the piano when I was like 3, 4 years old. So by the time I was 7 or 8, I'm the full-time church musician, sitting on telephone books, right, playing the piano. And I remember going to my father when I was maybe 8 or 9, and I said, Dad, I don't know, I don't really know if I want to play the piano anymore. Right? And he said, it don't make no difference. Right. The church needs a musician. Right. And I bought that goddamn piano. And you're gonna want to play it. So let's go to choir practice. Right? In other words, you're so central, right, that there's no other option. What we keep trying to do is trying to figure out how to appendage queerness, right, in places, right, and then clap for it on the sidelines. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely, positively not. Absolutely not. And so until we learn to do that, people are really trying to figure out, then why am I alive? Why am I alive? Why am I here? This is also why heteronormatives who ain't got no business having kids keep having kids. Right. Because they cannot figure out a communal utility without human reproduction. So we supposed to ain't got no business with no kids? We got no business with no kids. But since there is no other constructed value, I'll remake me. The one you has already been to him. Right? This is very serious, right? It's very, very serious, and it's very, very important. And we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of work that needs to be done. You know, I mentor in the AU Center, and the truth of the matter is, if I could get 50 other professors to do it, we could have changed the world. Right? Trying to get one almost killed me. Right? Literally. And I've been doing it now for 30-something years. Right? And the young folks are amazing. Many of them are in this room. Unbelievable. Just amazing and fantastic. And every city I go to, they all come out. It's, oh my God, Bobby, here, Oakland and Chicago, right? But the truth is, as Mom and them know from Tuskegee, it cost me everything. It cost me my house.
Yes.
It cost me my time.
Yes.
It cost me my money.
Yes.
I mean quite literally. It cost me everything. What I didn't know is how excellent God takes notes. I got to lay down because I would really be running. Right, I just didn't know. But God is a great multiplier. Right. So what you think is costing you, it is. But when God finishes multiplying you, you won't even be able to conceive of what you started.
Yes.
Right? And so here I am now, and I'm like, oh my God, Lord have mercy. You know, but I didn't know it was going to be this. But the truth of the matter, what I want black kids to see is if it costs me my life, you're worth it.
Right.
So we had another question that we kind of talked about a little bit, because you mentioned where are the mentors for black same gender-loving men. And so we had a deep discussion about where we thought they were and we kind of came up with the fact that older people, we did our thing and there was no social media and we were good with it. And now that there is, sometimes we don't want to be in the same spaces. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did ask that question about where are the mentors for that population. So where is it? Where do you think they are? Because we kind of came up with, you know, what we did at 20, we ain't doing at 45, and we don't want a footage of it either.
Sure.
So, like, it's kind of hard to mentor in those same spaces if that activity could cost us our jobs, our livelihood, and some of the stuff that you just said.
Yeah. Part of the problem is that we keep looking for mirrors instead of mentors. Right? It doesn't take a gay man to mentor a gay boy. Right? It takes an intelligent man to mentor a gay boy.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't take a lesbian woman to mentor a lesbian, right? But see, and a very smart man is going to mentor this gay boy. And yes, he might say, you know, this young man may tell him, I'm gay. Fantastic. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? There's a boy I like. Wonderful. What's his name? What is his character like?
Right.
Who are his parents? And in fact, bring him here. Because as your daddy, I need to meet him. You like a girl, I need to meet her. Right? In other words, we have to mentor on principles, not seemingly preferences. Right? And vice versa. As a black gay man, all the people he mentored don't have to be gay. What is that?
Yes.
That's silliness. Right? A child comes to him and says, you know, hey, will you be my mentor? Yes. And he has a little girlfriend. He don't know about no girl? Oh, that's ridiculous. That's silly. So what I'm really saying here is we've got to create better adults so that any child who comes into our community can pick from the reservoir of excellence in terms of who can get me. Because the real point of a mentor, you know what the real point of a mentor is? Who can get me to my destiny? Who can get me to my destiny? Right? That's the question of a mentor. Who can get me to my destiny? Listen, if you're Prince, let's go. If you might listen, let's go. Let's go. We haven't gotten mature enough to really mentor across gender yet. But that should be coming too. Right? I've been doing that for years too. I've been to as many girls as I do boys. Right? But see, but I can cornrow hair as quickly as I can change a tire.
Yes.
Right? But that's because as a queer young man, right, God pushed me, right, to play with every possibility. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Right? But since most people, right, are not that evolved, right? We're going to do it within people's limitations, right? But it doesn't have to be one-on-one like that. And that's extremely, extremely important. Because if you're not careful, a person who mentors a gay child, all they'll talk about is gay issues. And people are more than that.
Ms. Perkins?
As you know, we are in a very volatile state in our country.
Yes.
I mean, even today,
Yes.
we had a former president, indicted
Yes.
for federal charges.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
You got all kinds of stuff going on with woke, all these, volatile types of things going on. What would you say to not queer, just our black community? What do you think is the most crucial thing that we're missing, or that we need to focus on right now in this climate that we're in right now?
One, we need to do more rituals as black people.
Come on.
Ritual means we need to gather more often like this.
Yes.
Right? And we need to meet and call upon our God and our ancestors to lead us in this space.
Yes.
Right? And put our heads together and rejuvenate ourselves. An insane president is every president in the United States we've had thus far.
Come on.
So another insane one won't shift black. Right. That won't shift. I'm not scared of Trump. That's not deep.
Right.
Right. George Washington, what's his name? Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was raping black women and writing the Declaration. So I mean, you get it, right? So one, we need to do more ritual, right? There was a time when ritual was part of our weekly existence. Sometimes we called it church, right? But the point is, we got together and we gathered. We put our minds together. We had collective, communal kinds of conversations. We had things we agreed upon that we needed, right? That's one thing. A second thing that I think we should do is I think we've got to do far, far better about voting in blocks.
Yes.
Right? It's being very, very strategic. Very, very strategic. And we've got to put people forward for public offices who can represent us in policy-making places.
Yes.
Right? That's extremely important. And what's funny is, it's only really as black people when we start asking folks about questions of qualification. Anybody white just run, and we never know where they came from. They just appear. Black people, women, how you qualify? Right? Because you're an American citizen. That's enough of it, right? So those are two things I think that we should do immediately. I love you.
I'm just getting free. So my question is, I think that we have gender gaps in our community. We have all these equity issues, but what I'm finding, because there's so many people around me that are having these conversations, but now with being back home in Selma and being in the type of leadership position that I'm in, being a juvenile judge, so that means I'm dealing with all of the young people in the city. I don't recognize the city that I've been in. I've had one student in a year and a half on the bench that's on reading and math grade level 1.
Wow.
My point is, I look around the room at those of us having this conversation, and there's an educational gap. I see a lot of these conversations happening, but they're still happening within the people that are probably aware of you, that read your book, that have the conversations. I mean, I went through Nzinga, I went through a process, I'm a funded you. Of course I'm going to be here. But I'm just sitting here and like the people that need to be hearing these conversations are over there on the side of Montgomery, and we're not engaging with them. I can say the same thing about Toronto and me too. We grew up in Selma, we're part of this. But there are these intellectuals, and maybe this is a conversation with you as an academic because you were my professor and I know you can be that as well, in addition as a cultural leader and elder that you are. But there is such a gap between the communities of people that are having these types of conversations and the people that really need to hear them. We are not bridging that gap. I think that one of the biggest gaps in our community is the class and educational gap. Because the people that we need to, what's happening over here and what we're reading and studying and doing and conversing amongst ourselves, it's not translated. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we take these conversations out of our silos, out of the people that read these books, out of our intellectual circles
Yeah.
that we feel comfortable and safe in, and how do we reach the masses?
Yes.
Because this is not about the talented 10th anymore. I know in Selma we're in a crisis.
Right.
In a way that I didn't see in 17 years in Montgomery. We are in a crisis here too, I understand. But with Selma being so small
Absolutely.
and everybody knowing each other and their own
Right.
lines, I just see it in a different way
Yes.
that I didn't see it in 17 years in Montgomery. But I also acknowledge that my years in Montgomery were spent around lawyers, around people that I went to church with. I never made it to the masses in Montgomery like I am in Selma.
Absolutely.
I never touched the community
Right.
unless it was in a court
Right.
case,
Right.
honestly, or it was at church.
Right.
So now that I've been in the streets in a different way, and now thank God that I was, because I would have been a horrible judge without it. How do we bridge those gaps? How do I start these, and for not only just class gap, but rural? We're
Right.
still in Montgomery having these conversations, whether we have a community. How do any of these conversations reach the black belt?
You know, I would
There's so
tell
many places that are forgotten and so many people, and we're not translating, we're not speaking their
Right.
language, we're not relatable.
Right.
They'll laugh at us if they come, and how do we deal with that kind of issue, and how do we start having a larger audience for these conversations and reaching people in a way that they can get it with those gaps that being
Yes.
so defined?
Yes, I agree with you. I really do agree with you. And I'm going to tell you two things I've discovered probably after Perfect Peace came out. Right. In terms of how to reach the larger mass. And our generation, folks like, well, I don't say our generation, you and I are not the same age, right? But our generation and elder, there's one thing we've avoided that we really should be running to, that will absolutely reach the masses. And that is, we as older folks, we have got to get on social media. Right? That's where those kids are. They are on that social media. Right? And TikTok. Right? In fact, I'm going to tell you what happened. A young person at Clark sent me a text and said, and this was maybe 2 or 3 months ago, said, Dr. Black, I'm going to send you a link. Just check it out. Send me a link. There was a conversation of 450,000 young people on TikTok. I'd never even heard of it. I never even saw it. I was like, what the hell? And they were like, have you read this book? Now, some of the language was a little rough. Some of the, that's right. They were like, this is the craziest ass book I ever heard of. But it was kids from all over the nation talking about this book. And I was like, what did I miss? And part of what I missed was I have been so critical of social media, right? And I've been so resistant, right? But social media is absolutely the medium, right, of these young people. This is their universe, right? TikTok, Instagram, right? Oh my God. And so when I got in, they were like, what up, Dr. And some of the kids were like, you a fucking beast. You're right. And I was like, thank you. Appreciate it, But once I got past it, I said, this is the young audience right here. This is it, right? So we have got to use social media, and even we have to be on there, even in things like to say, if you just make a post, I want every black child today to simply say, I love you. Send. Send. They will get it. In fact, they're sitting there holding their phone, right? More than you are, right? If you just put it out in the world, right? It'll get there, right? It's extremely important. It's unbelievably important. And the other thing, which we've been resistant to, which if we as elders could get in the groove, it could actually change. And that is, we have got to enter the hip-hop machine. Right? These young people know this hip-hop. Did you hear me? They're naming people now we ain't even heard of them. Right? Of course, everybody's a little baby, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? But the point here, right? The point here is, Beyonce can say one thing. Right, and it's going to beat this in 20 years. Which means, really, I need Beyonce. Right? But the point is, I could really get to Beyonce if that was really part of my goal. My goal has been, right, to get the folks who read. Right? But the truth of the matter is, if we're trying to really touch young folks, right, they're in that hip-hop machine. And it's constantly moving. And it's constantly evolving. And it's not all horrible. It's not all bad. And that's what they've been saying to us. right? We just gonna have to bend a little as older folks. And the truth of the matter is, every generation changes, and every generation has its own social order.
That's right.
Right? And we're gonna get in there because that's where the kids are. 25 years ago, I would have said, you gotta get to the black church. No. Nah, that's the old people now.
Yeah.
And that's part of our problem too, because we didn't raise these new kids in the church. That's another conversation. We should have, but we didn't. Okay, all right. So the last thing I'm gonna say is, I want to beg us to just make posts, right, and just send it. You don't have to send it to anybody in particular. Just send it in the world, and people will get it. And learn who's doing it, learn what they're saying, learn who they're saying. Because if you can enter that conversation, young folks feel validated.
Yes.
They feel seen. They feel heard. Because this is their historical moment.
Yes.
And what we historically been saying is, it is cheap, it is worthless, and we don't want nothing to do with it. Right? And that gap is wider and wider and wider. Yes, yeah. I know I've consumed a lot of time. Do we have time for one more? Yes.
As an avid reader and a member of Gone Girl Book Club,
Oh, yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm an elder. We gotta keep pushing the books to read.
Sure.
I'm going with the flow with the hip hop and the social media, but for my generation, that book is very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we take things out of context.
Yes.
We look at a subject, we look at a few conversations, but we don't get the real context of everything, and that confuses so many people. So I always stick with the book first.
Yes, ma'am. And I think what this great judge was saying, and let me say, right, she was part of this mentoring group, right, that I've done in Atlanta. This was 20, ooh. No. It was many moons ago. It was many moons ago. And so many of these young folks have just done remarkably well. And I think what she's implying is true. We can do both. Right. And we must do both. Right. And the social position we're in, it's going to cost us if we don't do both. Right. Because we have a generation of brilliant kids, but they're not necessarily reading books like this. Or reading books, period. I get a lot of kids in school who say, I've not read a whole book ever. Right. Yeah, I mean in college, absolutely. And that's a sad commentary, but here they are. Right. But the intelligence is not lost on them.
Right.
I see the brilliance. I got that. They'll stand up and say, let me drop some bars for you, Doc. And I say, go for it. And the rhyme schemes are it's so brilliant. I see the brilliance in it. No problem. Now I want you to read chapter 2. And they like, man, the whole chapter. But the catch is, they'll read chapter 2 now because I've honored their voice.
That's right.
In their own right. And I get that. And y'all, I know our time is going far.
I would like to thank, y'all gotta have to give him a round of applause. Whether they're here or not, I know the healthcare, Tony Phillips, he's still here. Over there is one of our sponsors. Fancy Pharmaceuticals, Avita Pharmacy, of course, Onyx Coalition, and of course, we wouldn't be doing all of this if it wasn't for one of our lead people at KRAC, Shakita Jones. And especially all of you all. You can't do it by ourselves. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't gotten the book,
get one.
and if you hadn't got refreshments, you get some.
Yes. And I'm standing here if you want pictures or if you want me to sign. Just